I don't, I'm gonna be real. Like, I don't even know how, like, the name of the month. Like, is it Women's History Month? Is it Women's Month?
Mm.
Because I know there's International Women's Day, but y'all got a whole
Mm-hmm.
month too.
um,
And I'm not saying that as like, I feel like that had a tone of jealousy. This is more of curiosity.
it definitely came off as jealousy. Like, you mad? Oh, you mad?
No, no.
Yeah, it's Women's History Month for the month of March in the United States. And then there's International Women's Day, self explanatory, which is recognized all over the world. It's celebrating the achievements and accomplishments of women.
Okay. Well, I feel like with our platform on the Quién, Eres podcast, we're already doing our job in highlighting women within our community. But I thought we could play a fun game today where looking forward, 12 minus 3. There's 9 months left in the year.
Mm-hmm.
There's 4 episodes each week. So if we could pick 5 women that each of us would want to have on the podcast, figure we could do a little draft.
Oh, okay. A little March Madness, if you would.
Oh,
Oh!
I didn't even think about that. Although there's no draft in March Madness, but sure,
Okay,
yeah.
but it's still basketball related.
I'm proud of you for that. I'm proud of you for that. It was so close. It was so
It was
close.
so close.
And here you are living the stereotype that women don't know sports. There you go.
You know, I do what I can. Jerk.
All good.
Yeah, I do feel as though we do a really great job highlighting women on our platform, and we've gotten a lot of feedback on that. And at the same time, it's not forced. Like, we don't need a special month just to bring it up, right? Like, it's just a part of the culture of the company that exists.
I struggle with these months of celebration because, Women's History Month. It's not like we're not highlighting women. For Black History Month, it's not like we're not highlighting people that self-identify as Black and Latino, Latina, Latinx, Latina. Whoa, that was a mouthful. We're already doing that. For Hispanic Heritage Month. Oh, like, are we going to overemphasize on the Hispanics? Like, we're already doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a desire to do a little bit more, but sometimes I don't know what to do during those months.
You don't know what to do in what way?
Like, what else should we be doing? You know what I mean? Like, Women's History Month, we're already highlighting women in a variety of different, countries, industries that people work in, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, how can we make this even more special? Or do we even?
Right. For me, same, struggling with the whole like celebration month thing. And I want to get to a point where it's like a moot point. Like, it's just how things are. We don't have to celebrate or pay extra attention because we're constantly doing that on a regular basis. Right. Like, my hope is this whole conversation around DEI goes away, and that we don't have to keep focusing on DEI specific initiatives and, diversity training, because it's just a natural part of how we actually conduct ourselves on a day-to-day basis. So until we get to that point, we will continue doing this, and we will continue highlighting the things that we need to speak about. I'm really proud of our platform and the stories that we get to share. They inspire me on a regular basis. So, this March Madness draft, not during draft, is exciting because I feel like there are some really dope women out there that I look up to and admire, that I don't want to say that they're role models, but it's like, oh, you're doing some cool shit and I want to hear more about it. So, ladies first. Fair?
That's fair. Fair.
All right. So I'm going to pull one out that you probably have on your list, but I'm going to take it anyways, which is good, right? It's good that we both have her. Number one, for sure, for me, is AOC. To have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on the show would be amazing. And for me in particular, the fact that she's a year younger than I am is even more so. And she started in hospitality. I worked in hospitality for a long time. And for her to just basically base her campaign on, like, I'm looking around and I don't like the way things are. And so I'm going to do something about it. And she was the ultimate underdog, and people really didn't believe in her. And then here's this Puerto Rican woman from the Bronx. Now she's US representative. I think it would be amazing to hear her on Eres.
You know what? We're going to stay in New York, and I'm going to pick the one and only Cardi B. I just put myself in Cardi B's shoes, and I can imagine the number of times that people told her to stop, that no one's going to listen to her music if she continued to rap, talk, dress, etc. the way that she continues to do it. People are not going to take you seriously as a woman, blah, blah, blah. And I'm making up this story in my head, but it's a story that we hear so often on the podcast and other industries, that in a male-dominated space like music,
like rap,
especially like rap, and with her coming from a dancing background where she was sexualized for many years, I wonder like how difficult it was for her to remain true, authentic, despite all of the naysayers and people potentially telling her to change.
Yeah. Because from my vantage point, she made it look pretty easy. Like she was like, I am who I am, and y'all could get with it or get lost.
Yeah.
Right? So
But
I wonder,
that's what we see, right? But like what happens behind the scenes?
Like, was it that easy?
Exactly. All right, so who's next?
For me, the next one is a fellow Brazilian, and that is Ligiane Jones. And for those who don't know, Ligiane Jones is Slack's new CEO. So she just became CEO this past year. And when I tell you the emotion that I got when I read that news, I'll also in full transparency say that like I didn't know about Ligiane prior to that. So her getting to that title and the press around it's one of those things where, oh, now I can see myself in that position, right? Like Slack is a part of Salesforce, which is one of the biggest organizations, tech companies on the planet, right? Let alone just the US. And to have a woman, a Brazilian woman now at the helm with a quote unquote non-traditional background, in the sense of when you have these sort of like succession planning meetings and whatnot, and you're looking at who are going to be the folks that are going to step up as other folks like leave the organization, retire, resign, whatever. Usually it's folks that have been in the organization, right? And within Salesforce, that's kind of the thing, right? The executives have been there for 10 plus years. And then prior to that, we're at like Oracle.
Yeah, they get like a chief product officer, a chief market, like somebody that's, 100%.
Yeah, it's people that they've worked with, that have been with the company, all that. And that's not Ligiane's story. She hasn't been with the organization for that long. I think she was there for less than 3 years, potentially, within like that area. And she, prior to that, was at Sonos, which is a completely different organization. So that was really inspiring for me as a Brazilian woman. I know it's something that we talk about kind of often, that Brazil just doesn't get the visibility, and like Brazilians don't get the visibility within this country because it's very much a not from here or there situation, to like an even greater extent, because it's like, okay, we're not really, American enough, but we're not Latino enough either. And people have told me, like, just in passing, like, oh yeah, it's because like you look like you're Latina, so everybody thinks you are. And it's like, I'm not Hispanic, but I am Latina. And it's just wild. It's just wild. But for sure, that is my second pick.
My second pick, speaking of slack, this woman is not slacking. And you said inspirational. This woman inspires me because I think of, again, so many of the women have been on this podcast that have felt the need to tone down the colors that they choose when it comes to their outfits. The blacks, the navies, the grays. I feel like she might have been on your list, but I'm going to steal this one.
Ah!
Reina Noriega. This
For sure
woman
was on my list.
This woman is so talented, and we were talking about her before our call, but I was just like, I love her choice of colors. And it's not only about the colors that she puts on the canvas. I feel like she's one of those artists that lives her raps. You know what I mean? Like, she wears the same colors that she uses to paint. It looks like when she wants to get dressed up in the morning, she literally dives into her canvas and comes out with an outfit. Like, she's just
Right?
so fly, so talented, and so colorful. I promise that's a compliment.
And it comes off as a compliment, 100%.
Okay.
And she was on my list for sure, especially because she's a Miami native.
That was a steal. Let's go.
But yeah, and I had the pleasure of meeting Reina at an event here in Miami, and I've also been a huge, supporter of hers. Her most recent, so she's an artist, obviously, like painting and whatnot, but she also writes poetry.
Oh,
And
I didn't know.
yeah, you're not a real fan.
Not the Renaissance woman over here.
She's published, I think, 3 books now, and her most recent publication, Cocoon, came out after the pandemic, and she wrote it during the pandemic, and it's such a beautiful, like, love poem to yourself. As I was reading it, it got me through such a transitional point in my life, and it just hit to my core when everything was changing around me. Her poetry just put into words things that I've been feeling since the pandemic that I couldn't articulate.
Wow.
And it gave me such a deep sense of healing. When I saw her at this event, I was like, okay, well, don't be corny, but I was like a little awestruck. I'm like, and don't think about it too much. And I went up to her and I was like, I just want to say, like, your poetry transformed my life. And when I tell you, she's the sweetest, kindest soul. And the reason why her paintings look like that, the reason why her outfits look like that, is that that's what her soul looks like. It's light and cheery and colorful. And yes, Reina, we need you.
There's so many people that I know want to dress like her, accessorize the colors, all of it, but they are scared to, or they don't feel comfortable enough to do that in the spaces where they exist, and it's unfortunate. But she's an inspiration. And also, you just completely shitted on my fandom, so thank you for that.
I didn't shit on it. I just called it out for what it was.
You're just like, I'm just a better fan. It's all right.
I was just salty that you took from my list. That's all.
All right, what is your number 3 pick?
Okay, so my number 3 pick is Beatriz Acevedo, and she is the CEO of Suma Wealth, and formerly she ran Mitu. And financial literacy for me is so important. It's already been shown that over our lifetime, like, we will earn $1 million less than our white male counterpart. And then when you take into account how you could be investing that money, the conversation needs to be had. And I'm really grateful that there is someone out there having the conversation, providing the resources, and really making sure that Latinas are equipped to be able to reach financial freedom. Like, that's the point of this country, right? Like, our parents came here for a better future, and women have been left out of the conversation when it comes to money, and even more so Latinas.
Well, that number 3 pick is, I think, a little ironic, because my number 3 pick, speaking of investments, was an investor in that company.
Really?
Also ironic, her name is Samara. I'm going with Samara Mejia Hernandez, founder of Chingona Ventures, and one of their portfolio companies is actually Suma Wealth.
Yes. Oh my God. I'm like low-key mad that I didn't pick her.
I mean, same name. Come on, like that should be your first pick.
Seriously. Okay, so say more. Why did you pick her?
When you think of venture capital, the money that goes to women founders and founders of color, very, very low. Probably in
Yeah.
total less than 5%. So
Hmm.
in order to change the face of where those dollars are going, you need a seat at the table, and sometimes you need to create your own table. And that's what she did with Chingona Ventures. She literally created her own table, her own VC fund, so that she could have more control over where those dollars went. And talk about a prime example of investing in the community that you came from. Suma Wealth, I think, is a great example of that. But she started her career in finance and investment banking. Not surprising given that she's in VC right now. So I want to hear about what it's like to work, at the trading desk and the Goldman Sachs of the world as an associate, as an analyst, and all of those things, to now in VC. You got to think about, like, where do those initial funds come from that she
Hmm.
then takes and reinvests. Like, she's out there pitching herself, pitching her fund, and saying, like, hey, rich people, give me the money because I know where to invest it. Like, that takes a lot of trust. And I'm assuming, maybe this is a story that I'm making up in my head, but I'm assuming there's got to be a level of insecurity around, how am I going to show up to these meetings? Are they
Right.
going to take me seriously in all of those, like, emotions? I want to hear about all of those things.
I don't know if you remember this, but I went to a conference last year and she was actually one of the panel speakers. So dope, like amazing insight. And obviously her name is Samara. And so the moderator is asking her questions.
I
So
remember this
I
story.
so I like took a video and I like closed my eyes and I pretended that the moderator was asking me the questions. And I literally go back and listen to this interviewer asking, so Samara, because that's one of my goals. Like I want to be able to cut the checks one day too and be able to invest in our community. So it's like, so Samara, tell me, what was it like, with raising your first round of funds? And I just close my eyes and I'm like, she's talking to me. Like, this is what it's going to sound like when I'm being interviewed. And like,
Wow.
Samara's not a common name. So
No.
when I hear it, it just hits so hard. I still have the video. I still listen to it. You remember that?
I do remember that now that you mention it. Yeah. That's such a dope story. I love that.
So with my fourth pick, who I want to have on the podcast would be Carla Vernon, and she is the CEO of the Honest Company, and she's one of the only Afro-Latina to be a CEO at a publicly traded U.S. company. So, and I do want to highlight though, when it comes to women in senior executive positions. There was a study that was done last year by Lehman and McKinsey that showed that women of color held 19% of entry-level positions. And as you went up, as you can imagine, it's a pyramid, right? So it's less and less and less, right? Manager 14, director or senior manager is 10, VP 8. By the time you get to C-suite position, it's only 5% of those positions are held by women of color. And this is in contrast to white women, because for entry level positions, while we're at 19%, white women are 29%. Here's the thing though, when it comes to C-suite positions, we are at 5%, white women are at 21%.
Wow.
So there's not as much of a drop off for white women as there are for women of color. So when one of us makes it to that C-level position, like it's a big deal. It deserves to be celebrated.
Her first LinkedIn picture when she announced it, and she was like, "This is my first day fit." I was like, "Okay, you got a little swag to you. I see you. Go, Carla." I'm like, I'm trying to bump into you in the office, compliment them kicks.
She's gonna be on Swag and Substance.
Maybe.
We gotta bring that back.
For my fourth pick, I'm picking Karine Jean-Pierre, who is the White House press secretary. And this one may be a little bit of a controversial pick because I'm not sure if she self-identifies as Latina.
Really?
She's Haitian.
Oh.
And I want to have more Haitian people on the podcast because I think it's such an interesting dynamic when it comes to identity.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally sharing the same island as the Dominican Republic, yet I don't think many people would even consider Haiti part of Latin America.
Right.
And it's not because of language, because Brazil, the main language is Portuguese.
Yeah.
So what are we
Yeah.
really saying? But besides that, I think from a professional standpoint, to work in an area like politics that is so heavily scrutinized, from what you wear to how you speak. I mean, this is the same industry or place of work where the biggest scandal that Barack Obama had was that he wore a tan suit. You know what I mean? This is the
Yeah.
same industry that is now passing legislation to say that women can't bear arms, a reference to a previous episode. So I just want to know how she deals with all the dynamics.
The majority of the people that I know who have Haitian backgrounds do not identify as Latina. Interesting. That was a nice little wild card there. I didn't see that one coming. I like it.
Thank you. And I tried to do 5, but I think you only had 4. So we're doing a top
Yeah.
4, I suppose.
I like top 4.
So next step, I think we agree to formally ask these people if they're going to be on the podcast.
About it. We need your help, right? So now you know who our dream podcast guests are for this year. We've got 8 slots. So ask number 1 is, are you connected to any of these women? Can you give an intro? Hit us up. Connect us on IG, on LinkedIn, email, whatever it is, to get all of these women on to talk about their experience. And number 2 is, who do we miss? Who do you want to see, right?
Exactly.
Let us know.
And we'll do more of these drafts in different variations. We'll do one for men, we'll do certain industries, because I think this is a fun way to just dream a little bit around who we want.
Yeah, for sure.
Mi gente, that wraps up another episode of the Quién, Eres podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please do us a favor, like, share, comment. Wherever you're listening to this, please leave us a review. It's only going to help us in the algorithms to ensure that these stories and experiences get heard by as many people as possible, because that's the only way that we're going to redefine professionalism. Ya tu sabe. See you next week.